Welcome to Talmudic Treasures. Today we're learning Sotah page 41, which discusses a story of a king by the name of Agrippus, that he was actually a descendant of Hordus or Herod, and the issue was that he was not really supposed to be the king of Israel. In order to be able to be a king of Israel, you must be a full-fledged Jew. And even though, of course, he was Jewish because his mother was, and we follow the mother, but nonetheless, his father actually was not Jewish. And not only that, he was, according to many, he was at a point an eved, like a slave, and therefore he was disqualified to be the king. Now, one of the requirements when it comes to the reciting of Hakel, which is a special ceremony that's done only once in 7 years, is the king will sit in front of everyone, men, women, and children alike, and he reads certain sections from the book of Deuteronomy from Sefer Devarim. Now, when it came to Agrippus, he decided to stand, even though everyone else technically was allowed to sit, the king was allowed to sit, but he stood. And because of that, he was greatly praised for this action. And when he got to a section in the Torah which basically said that you're not allowed, namely himself, to really be the king because he's disqualified, he felt very bad. And all of a sudden, all the leaders said, "Don't worry, you're our brother, it's okay, it's fine, who you are, we accept you for who you are, you're allowed to be in this position." And the truth is, he was not allowed to be in this position. And this is what's called in Hebrew chanifus, which we call flattery. On this, the Talmud continues for an entire page discussing that flattery is extremely destructive. In fact, it says that it could bring a person to Gehenna, literally to hell. Not only that, a person who would be living in a very close connection to God will be exiled if you're engaged in flattery. We see that flattery is such a horrible, horrible thing. In fact, the Talmud further tells us on the next page that there are 4 groups of people that just cannot have any connection to God. They cannot attach themselves in any way to spirituality. And one of them is flattery, someone who is constantly engaged in flattery. The question is, why? And what does it have to do with these other 3 in this group of 4? Namely, people who are liars, people who speak gossip or lashon hara, and also someone who is lazy. So when it comes to flattery, the problem is that you're giving someone a false perception of who they really are. If you are truly a friend and you really care about someone, and you see that they're doing things which are self-destructive, they're doing things that they should not be doing, which in this case, like Agrippus, he should not have been the king. The proper thing to do is to tell him, listen, doesn't mean you're not a good person, but this is not the position you're allowed to be in. Flattery is saying that it's okay. You could be who you are. There is no need for you to be something else in your life, which basically shows there is a concept of having a growth mindset, that you're constantly trying to improve. A person who enjoys being flattered or is constantly flattering others, that doesn't mean you don't compliment people, and it doesn't mean you shouldn't be nice to people. Of course you should, but you don't tell people things which are lies just because you want them to feel good. Because once you do that, they start thinking that they really are perfect, and there's no need for me to change, and everything is great, which means I will never grow. And that is the reason why someone like that will literally be exiled. They are basically disconnecting themselves from growth, which is why it says they will go to Gehenna. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go to hell because of this, but it means that they are going to end up not growing, and they're going to end up, unfortunately, falling because they have no sense of self-improvement, which is the same thing as a person who is lazy, and someone who is engaged in lying and flattery are people that are not in touch with reality.